This video demonstrates how to manually calibrate the EyeLink 1000, EyeLink 1000 Plus and EyeLink Portable Duo eye trackers. First, before the participant arrives, start the host PC and the display PC, and once that is running, the experiment. On the host PC, check if the settings are set according to the experimental protocol. This includes checking whether the tracking is head stabilized and monocular, if the correct number of calibration points will be used, and if the resolution is correct. Before the participant sits down, disinfect the headrest and put tissue paper on the chin rest. This demonstrates the hygiene protocol is being adhered to. Ask the participant to sit down. Adjust the height of the table or chair if either of them can be adjusted. The participant should be able to sit comfortably but with their back straight when their head is on the headrest. Ask the participant to have their forehead against the bar and their chin placed on the chin rest at all times, and to minimise head movements during the experiment. If the participant is wearing eye makeup, ask them to remove it with the provided wipes. If the participant is wearing glasses, ask them to clean them. Do this regardless of whether you can see any dirt or not. Once the participant is seated with their head on the headrest, select their dominant eye on the host PC by pressing R or L. You should see the eye in the correct right or left panel. Press on the centre of the eye location on the top panel such that it is in the centre of the red circle. Adjust the focus of the camera by slowly turning the wheel that is on the underside of the camera slightly to the left. You can press Enter on the host PC keyboard to show the image of the eye on the display PC screen. This helps in adjusting the focus. You can press Enter again to make it disappear. When the focus is set, ask the participant to look at the centre of the screen. Once the participant has stably fixated on the centre of the screen, click Auto Threshold to adjust the pupil and the corneal reflection threshold. The automatically set thresholds usually return adequate values. The pupil should be filled out in dark blue. The corneal reflection is represented in turquoise and should only cover a small circle-like area on the corner of the pupil. If parts outside of the pupil are in dark blue, decrease the pupil threshold. If more than a small circle is turquoise, increase the corneal reflection threshold, indicated as CR. You can adjust the thresholds by clicking on the arrows or using the keyboard. You can use the arrow keys for the pupil and the plus and minus keys for the corneal reflection. The numerical value of the pupil threshold is usually between 70 and 115, and for the corneal reflection, the value should not exceed 240. If you notice that the pupil threshold cannot be reduced in such a way that only the pupil is filled in dark blue, there might be mascara left on the lashes. Ask the participant to remove their eye makeup again. If there seems to be a consistent second corneal reflection, it might be due to soft contact lenses. If the participant has bought their glasses, ask them to remove their contact lenses and put on their glasses instead. Sometimes it's the glasses that can cause an additional reflection. This can be changed by slightly adjusting the position of the glasses or by sliding the chin part of the headrest forward or back, which will adjust the angle. After setting the thresholds, check if they are correct by asking the participant to look at the four corners of the screen one by one. Ask the participant to look to the left, right, top and bottom edges of the screen to make sure their eye is being tracked. This will show if the reflection is lost when looking at extreme points or if any other adjustments need to be made. When the setup looks good, explain to the participant the calibration process. As an example, you could say, "Before we begin the experiment, I will need to calibrate the eye tracker. A black circle will be displayed on the screen. Please focus your gaze on the centre of the circle. As the circle moves to a new position, continue to follow it with your eyes while keeping your gaze centred on the circle at all times. It is important not to try to anticipate the next position of the circle." Press C or click on the calibration button on your monitor for the calibration screen to appear. A single black circle shows on the display PC screen in front of the participant. The circle changes position whenever you press the spacebar or enter. On the host PC, you see a black screen with a white circle mirroring the black circle on the participant's display, as well as an additional coloured circle marking where the participant is looking.
The colour of the additional circle depends on the eye that has been selected. When the coloured circle is relatively still after the black dot changed its position, press the spacebar quickly but quietly. For each press of the spacebar, a cross appears indicating the tracked position of the fixation.
During this step, it's important to monitor the small eye image at the bottom to ensure it's still being tracked. A good indicator to look out for is the presence of the corneal reflection, which is represented as a turquoise circle. If the corneal reflection disappears while the participant is fixating on the centre of the black circle, it means there's a tracking failure and the camera setup process needs to be redone.
After pressing the spacebar for the final time, look at the resulting pattern of crosses. If the pattern looks somewhat asymmetrical or chaotic, especially in the corners, repeat the calibration. If the pattern looks roughly symmetrical, you can proceed to the validation by pressing V or clicking on the validation button. The validation step looks the same to the participant as the calibration step. Once again, a black circle appears on the display PC screen and the participant is required to look in the middle of it, and on the host PC screen you see a coloured dot. Press the spacebar when the coloured dot is on the white circle or as close as possible to it. To improve the timing of your button press, you can imagine that you're trying to capture the white circle by pressing the spacebar whenever the coloured dot is on it. When you notice that you press too early or too late, you can remove the current measurement by pressing backspace and then redoing the current dot. At the end of the validation, you are prompted to repeat the procedure for the 3 points with the worst measurements. Accept or reject the validation according to the guidelines of your experiment.
The result of the validation is indicated in words and with a coloured bar at the bottom of the screen. Check the average validation error and whether it is below or above the threshold set for the experiment. For the MultiplEYE project, the average validation error threshold is 0.3. If the average validation error is below the threshold, you may proceed to the recording by pressing the letter O on the keyboard or clicking on the icon that says output/record for the EyeLink 1000 and 1000 Plus and record for the EyeLink Portable Duo. If the average validation error is above the threshold, you should recheck the setup and redo the calibration and validation process. If the measurements are now below the threshold, you can proceed to the recording.
There are a few steps that can be taken to improve the calibration. If the eye movements were very erratic during the calibration, it might be because the participant is tired. You can ask them to close their eyes for a bit and then redo the calibration and validation. You can also change the illumination and see if this improves the results.
To do this, click on the corresponding icon in Setup and then select a value higher or lower than the current one.
If, after a few attempts of calibration and validation, the result is still only fair, you can proceed with the recording. However, it is crucial to pay close attention to the gaze. If it drifts far from the areas of interest, conduct another calibration. In the event that the outcome remains poor, despite taking all of these measures, you may have to cancel the session and send the participant home.